Welcome to Karchermakes. I'm Andrea, a serial crafter coming to you from South Central Pennsylvania, and this is the place where we like to talk about all things crafty. Usually that's knitting, sometimes it's sewing, sometimes it's other fibery crafts like crochet or weaving. But for today, we're going to talk about the Stephen West Mystery Knitalongs. So let's start with what I'm wearing. This is the Stephen West Mystery Knitalong from 2022, the Twists and Turns. And I'll insert some better footage here of what this looks like when it's kind of spread out. But I really love wearing this. I wear it more of a scarf style, and maybe that's a video we can do later, how to style shawls and scarves, because there's a million different ways you could wear these. But the yarn that I used is Miss Babs Caroline, which is a merino cashmere nylon fingering weight. And I'm not sure if you can tell on camera, but because of the cashmere, it has the slightest little halo and it is so incredibly soft. I love this yarn. This is the first time I've used this base from Miss Babs, but I wish you could like reach through the camera and feel this. It's like a cloud and it's not itchy at all, which is lovely when you're wearing it around your neck. So the colors that I use, and I have to look at my notes because I can't remember these colorway names. So the purple is called Wolf's Bane. The magenta fuchsia pink color, that is called Dark Cassiopeia. And then the orange, this like really pretty rusty orange, is Cygnus. So there is that. So now that we've talked about 2022's Mystery Knitalong, let's talk about 2023's. It is done, or let me rephrase that. It is done as it's going to get for now. Okay, so when I say done, I don't mean like completely finished. I would not consider this to be a finished object. Maybe it's a sort of finished object. But here is 2023's. This is the Geogradient that we all know and love. And I have finished both Clue 3 wings. And there that is. So, like I've mentioned before, if you're new here, PS, I'm not planning on adding Clue 4 to this, the border. Maybe that's something that happens later. I do have plenty of this yarn left, so, you know, I can always change my mind, right? But I think for now, this is pretty much done. I do need to finish. I have about half the ends woven in. And when I weave in ends, I like leaving kind of a long tail until it's blocked, and then I'll go back and trim them off. But about half the ends are woven in. I've been slowly working on that in between other knitting. But there is that. So the yarn that I'm using for this is also Miss Babs, and apparently I did not note that anywhere, including on my project page in Ravelry. So I'm not sure of the colors. But for those of you returning, you've seen this. It's just basically two colors of gray, a light and a dark, black and purple. And this is my Ravens themed shawl. And I can't wait to wear it. So let's talk about this year's Mystery Knitalong, the Go Go Dynamo. And if you don't want to be spoiled, fast forward. I'll put a timestamp here, try to do that so that you don't, get a peek when you don't want to. So I completed Clue 1. So Clue 1 came out last Thursday, a week ago, and I completed that by Monday. So then I had a couple days that I worked on other things. Yay me. And then Clue 2 came out on this Thursday. So this is Saturday when I'm filming this, so a couple days ago. I haven't gotten very far with Clue 2, which is not a surprise because, well, I'm slow. I'm a slow maker, y'all. So for this year's Mystery Knitalong, I'm using Frogget yarns. This is Fern, and this is Winter White. Look away, spoiler alert, this is your last warning. Here we are. And I probably should have put this on a second pair of needles because it is a lot of stitches already. It's 360 some probably stitches. It is a lot. So let's talk about my thoughts on this construction that Mr. West has come up with for this design. So first and foremost, I talked in prior videos about how, again, I don't like doing things twice. This one is a great example where, you know, you do something, you take a lot of time doing it, and then it's like, oh yeah, now go repeat that on this side, and then do it all again. When I got the pattern for Clue 1, I saw it was this little, you know, little half circle that we were making, and I was like, okay, cool, a half circle. We're getting a crescent shape. That's exactly what I wanted. I wanted a crescent shape. Yay. Steven's like, no, Karcher, hold my beer. I get to the end of the first little half circle rainbow situation here, and Steven is like, oh, by the way, make 2 more of them. Fine, Steven, I will make 2 more. So that's kind of where this started, and I'm hoping that's where the repetition ends. So we made 3 of these little half circles, and as with any project that I work on, it is not without mistake. And this is really non-obvious, and I'm like looking for it now. I don't even know if I can see it now. But in one of my half circles, this one, in my center half circle, I made a boo-boo, and I did an extra garter ridge where there's not supposed to be one. Again, very minor mistake. I found it when I was like up here. I wasn't ripping back. It wasn't happening. So there is that. And he gave us, for Clue 2, he gave us 2 options. We could do brioche, or you could do an eyelet option. And if you are making this, leave a comment below. Are you team brioche? Or are you team eyelets? Or if you're not making it, how do you feel about brioche? I feel like brioche is very sort of polarizing to knitters, and you either kind of love it or you hate it. I don't mind it. I do like the end resulting fabric, and I don't mind making it. Like, once you get the hang of it, it's fairly simple. But I chose to do the brioche section. I do love how the brioche looks on the back too. Like, look at that. Love that. And I'm just keeping on. I thought about adding some Surrey alpaca as the mohair there, except not mohair, because mohair is itchy to me. So I thought about doing some Surrey alpaca, and then like I just really like how these colors are working together. I like the high contrast of it, and I know on camera this kind of looks like white. It's really not. It's like a very pale grayish greenish color, and I just think it looks very, I don't know, sophisticated. I'm not a sophisticated person, so that's new to me, but I really do feel like this takes what could be a very sort of crazy design and then tones it down to be sophisticated. We'll use that word. So let's speculate on what we think is going to happen here. This is my favorite part of Mystery Knitalongs, is just the unknown, right? You don't know what's going to happen. And if Steven West has taught us anything, it's don't try to guess, because you're probably going to be wrong. The Soughdough from earlier this year is a great example of that. Who knew you could knit a sock flat? I didn't, but I learned. So let's talk about some speculation here. So yeah, we started here, right, with making these 3 semicircles, attaching them modularly with these garter sections, these little wedges, and then we added some bubbles, and then clue 2 is kind of continuing in this direction with brioche, and then there's more bubbles, more brioche, more bubbles. So that's kind of where we're at, but what I want to kind of think about and talk about is, like, where do we think this is really going to go? Is it just going to continue in this direction, moving upwards? And the reason why I'm questioning that is because this edge here, where we started and we've put these kind of pieces and wedges together, it just seems very unfinished to me. And I'm curious to see what is going to happen here. Is a future clue then going to move in this bottom, what we think is the bottom direction? I don't know, and I'm intrigued. What do you all think? Do you think we're just going to leave that as is? Maybe we do some sort of applied edge, an I-cord edge, or maybe like a little border in the future? I don't know. We're going to find out. Make sure you subscribe if you're not making this and you want to know all the secrets that are to come with the WestKnits Mystery Knitalong this year. Now, speaking of this, so I posted in the Ravelry forum for the Make Along. I don't look at spoilers. I don't want to be spoiled. But once I was done the clue, I went in there and obviously kind of read and looked around. And then I posted my progress for clue 1. And y'all, I had a total fangirl moment the other morning. Stephen West commented on my shawl. It's the little things in life, right? Like knitting and yarn and all the fibery crafts, just, it really speaks to my soul. And then to have someone who is very successful at that, both like artistically and commercially, comment on it, like I was touched. So there's that. So that's it for knitting for the week. I did work a little bit on my raven socks. I'm not even gonna show it here because it's just like, I think I finished 2 more repeats of the triangle pattern. So we'll take a look at those next week. So make sure you subscribe for more content on that. But in other kind of crafty news, I completed the second baby quilts top. So I'll insert some footage of that here. And by the way, I went back and I did a really terrible job of explaining half square triangles. So maybe that's something we address again in the future properly. But this was all half square triangles, and I spent probably an hour laying them out in different designs and formats, and I can insert a couple of those pictures here. It really shows kind of the versatility of, you know, a simple square made with 2 fabrics in half. Like, the opportunities are endless with how you can put those together to make various sort of designs. And I really landed on this diamond shape pattern. I thought it was really pretty. Speaking of sophisticated, like, I feel like it's a little sophisticated for a baby, but I love it. And I'm gonna be very sad when I have to give these things away. So right now I just have the top done. I need to figure out what border I want to do. I have like a darker blue fabric, and then I also have more of that cream fabric that I did the half squares with. So I just need to decide how I want to kind of finish this off. It's kind of small right now, so I may do like a wide border around it, and then, you know, then the actual quilting part happens. You make your quilt sandwich, you layer it with the backing and the back, and then, you know, do the quilting and then the binding, which is my least favorite part of this process, but I'm gonna get better at it. I'm gonna learn more. So I'll put also footage of the first one that I made, and I haven't worked on this. It just needs binding at this point. Again, that's my least favorite part. So what I'm going to do is once I get the second quilt to the point that it needs binding, I'm just going to bind them both at the same time and just get it over with that way. But this was also half square triangles, and they're just, you know, laid out in a different pattern where it kind of makes these like chevron-y zigzag situation. And I just thought it turned out so cute, and hopefully they love it. I know handmade gifts aren't everyone's favorite thing to get, but because it's babies, like, who doesn't love a blanket? What baby doesn't need another blanket? So that's all for the making content today. Spent a lot of time just knitting and sewing this past week. And so in kind of other life news, I mentioned last video, I talked a little bit about like my experience with cooking and my cooking journey. And it sounds like you guys want to hear a little bit more about that. So happy to oblige. This time of year is really, it's my favorite time of year. By the way, real quick, before we get into the cooking thing, this week was sort of amazing in a couple different ways. Number one, despite all of the terrible weather that the East Coast has seen, I've checked in with all my people, family, friends, everyone safe. And I was so grateful for that, because it was really devastating to, you know, North Carolina and Florida, but all my people are safe. I hope all your people are safe. And, you know, there's a lot of charities reaching out for help. So do your vetting. If you can contribute, feel free to do so. That would be great to help those people in need. But aside from that, just the happiness that I found in knowing that my people were safe. We had the Aurora Borealis here in Pennsylvania. Like, y'all, I could not believe it. So it was Wednesday evening, Thursday evening. I don't remember now. It was one of those days. But we're just kind of hanging out, and my boyfriend's friend calls, and he's like, go outside. And we're like, what are you talking about? Go outside. He's like, go outside right now. Go. So we go outside, and to the naked eye, the northern lights look very sort of faint. But when I pulled out the camera, I was like, holy cow, y'all. We have northern lights in Pennsylvania, and apparently it could be seen as far south as, like, some of my friends in Texas could see it. A couple people in Florida could see it. Amazing. Now, I'm not sure what this is saying in terms of, like, you know, climate change and that sort of thing, but it was amazing to witness. Now, I've been to Alaska twice. Both times they were like, maybe we'll see the northern lights, and it didn't happen. So the fact that I could just like walk out in my backyard and see it was amazing. And I'll insert some of the pictures here just so you can see it again. Just phenomenal. So aside from that, and then, you know, the loveliness of Mr. West commenting on my shawl. Monday was my birthday, and my boyfriend made my all-time favorite thing for dinner, which is reservations. I love a reservation. I've never met a reservation I didn't like. So we went out to dinner. We had a nice meal. We had some nice drinks, and it was just nice to get out and experience that for my birthday. We are very low-key on birthdays here. We're not big fanfare people, so that was nice to do. Okay, so back to the cooking. This time of year, I really am into like comfort food. It's my favorite. I love comfort food. I mean, obviously it's in the word comfort. It's so comforting to eat like a nice, hearty, hot meal. And for me, that usually ends up being like a soup or a stew. So let's just chat about that. I have a recipe that, and I gotta, of course, pull it up here, that is one of my go-tos. So the way I manage my meal planning is via Pinterest I have a board in there where I call them keepers. If I find a recipe and I think it looks good, I'll put it on a recipe board. If I then try that recipe and I like it enough to try it again, I'll put it on a second board called keepers. And that's just kind of how I manage recipes. I was getting to a point where I was like writing them down or printing them out, and you know, it sounds great in theory until you have to lug a binder out, and then it kind of fails in practice. So I just go by my phone. And the recipe that I made this week was the pasta fagioli soup, and it's by Saving Room for Dessert. And let me tell you, this recipe is so good and easy. Now, I will say, this recipe calls for using a rind of Parmesan, and I don't know about y'all, but where I live, groceries are expensive, especially cheese for some reason. All dairy products are very expensive here, so I kind of skip in the recipe the whole part about using the Parmesan rind, and what I'll do is I get like fresh grated Parmesan cheese. It's a little bit more cost effective, and I'll throw that in, but I just skip the whole rind part. Other than that, this is a phenomenal recipe, very delicious. You can really substitute any kind of pasta. So like when I made it, and I'll insert a picture here, when I made it this past week, my grocery store didn't have ditalini, which is what it calls for. Just use another pasta. It's all the same. It all tastes the same. So I use star pastina, and they're just so cute. They're like little stars, but I will say that they soaked up a lot of the juice, like the soupy part. So you may need to like adjust your liquids into the soup to just kind of counteract that. Or if you just like a really hearty, like thick stew, then don't. And you know, it'll be a lot thicker. But this is a phenomenal recipe, highly recommend. And then in addition to that, I am on a sourdough journey. And let me tell you what a journey it has been. I'll insert some pictures here of my failures. So when I went to Alaska last year, I got sourdough. It's like dehydrated sourdough powder that you could like reconstitute and make a starter out of. I tried that. It didn't work. It didn't work. Probably I did something wrong. I don't necessarily want to blame the company who made it, but like it didn't work. I wasn't getting the rise that I needed to make the bread, and one of my bread failures that I'll show is from that. Then I tried to follow the sourdough journey here on YouTube. He goes into like the in-depth like science and chemistry and biology that is sourdough. Like when I say in-depth, I mean it's like taking a college level class. So I tried to use his method for creating a starter, and like I was on day 30 and it still wasn't rising properly. So I tossed that. And where I finally found success was Breadtopia. They have YouTube channel, they have website, and they actually sell the live active starter. Like it's like a little piece of dough-ish that comes in a bag. I tried that, finally. Success. I've successfully made now 2 loaves of sourdough bread. They are so delicious. I'm gonna try focaccia next. I think that's gonna be this week's project, is trying focaccia. But so good. It's so easy to maintain. They really kind of simplify the process. So like I said, if you really want to go in depth with it, take a look at the sourdough journey. If you want a more simple, lazy, my kind of way with it, then take a look at Breadtopia. And I've put it in the fridge. It's kind of chilled out. I fed it. It works. And you know, now I have all this yummy bread to eat. So that's all I have for you today. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you learned something. If you did, give it a like, subscribe for more. Always happy to share all my makings with y'all. And next week, maybe I will be done Clue 2 and we can talk about that. Thanks for watching. See you next week. And until next time, happy making.